Real estate investment practice problem using Excel. Comparing loans with different lengths. Get ready because we're raising the stakes with real estate. Here we are in our Excel worksheet. If you have access to the Excel worksheet, would like to follow along, note that we have 3 tabs down below: example, practice, and blank. Let's take a look at them now, starting with the example tab, in essence being an answer key. Compare two loans with different balances, one at the $153,000 versus the $136,000. Different rates, the 8 versus the 8.5%, and also this time different lengths to the loan, one being a 30-year or 360 payments or months, one being 25 or 300. How would we go about comparing and contrasting the pros and cons of these two, given the fact that we've added the difference in the terms? So we're going to get our information in order to do so over here, and we'll calculate then our IRR as one factor to give us an idea of what would be the better scenario to be taking. To get that information, we're going to look at the payment differences for the 300 payments and then the 60 payments that one loan has that the other does not. We can look at those cash flow differences and determine an IRR calculation, internal rate of return. The practice tab will have blue areas with pre-formatted sections so you can fill them out along with the practice problem as we go. The blank tab is where we're going to be working from scratch. This is the scratch that we start with, and then we're going to be working from there. Let's examine that initial scratch. We've got the home is going to be the $170,000. We got the 10% down. That means $17,000 down. The loan at the $153,000, 30-year, 360, 8.5% on the rate. The payment then calculated using the PMT, the 1176.44. Straightforward calculation. The amortization table then having been populated for us already. Scrolling down just to double check that it is indeed fully amortized at the end of the loan, making it go to 0 at the end. It is. Looks good. We're going to copy that over and then add our changes to it. And this would be a common scenario if you're doing comparing and contrasting. So we're going to copy this over, putting our cursor on column A, and then go into I. We're going to AI. We're going to right click on it and we're going to copy it. We're going to do this so smart, just like AI would do it. And then we're going to right click and paste it here. Paste it. There we have it. Now let's make our changes. We're going to say that we're going to put, what if we put 20% down? And that would change the loan amount to $136,000. And then the years, what if we're talking 25 years, I should say, resulting in payments of 25 times 12 or 300, and the rate then increasing to or decreasing to the 8% rate. So we got the 8% rate, 25 years, the increased loan amount at the 136. That then changes our payment calculation on down below from $1,000 to $1,049.67. Let's update our payments in our amortization table now. Double clicking this payment, it's going to be absolute, so we need to replace it, removing the absolute referenced cell, picking up that 1049.67, making it absolute. F4 keyboard, $L, $17, enter. Going to copy that then down using the autofill, double clicking on Fill's handle. Fill handle button does the work for us. Then we're going to do the same thing for the interest. That rate is referencing B7 because it's absolute, and we need to change it because we're not over there anymore. We're right here. We're right there in L7. F4 keyboard so we can copy it down, making it absolute, $ before the L and 7, enter. Putting our cursor back on it, double clicking the fill handle button, and then scrolling down just to give us 2 checks that things have been done correctly. Check, check. Doubles on the checks, doubling up. Now this one's a little tricky because remember, of course, we stopped at 25 years. So it goes down to 0 at 25. We could delete the rest of the table, but it doesn't really impact our calculations as we pull them over. So I'm going to, in essence, keep it as is. If you were doing kind of comparisons like this, then you could decide how much formatting you would want to do with the comparisons and what would be logistically, feasible or work well to do. So this should work for us. So we're going to keep it there. So we can say, okay, let's figure out, obviously, the difference between the two loans. That's going to be important. We're going to get more loan under the first one scenario, difference in loan amount. Let's make that a header like black and white. And I'm just going to calculate the difference. So we'll just say formulae. It's going to be the larger loan minus the smaller loan. That means we got an added 17,000. Let's do it. So there we got it. I took the smaller loan minus the larger loan. Let's do it the other way. We want the larger loan first, because like the bigger number minus the smaller number will give us a positive. And we're looking positive numbers here. We're looking to the positive. Let's make that blue and border it just for formatting's sake. And then we're going to say, let's calculate the difference in our cash flow payments over the life of this thing, because one of them's 300 and the other one's 60 months. So we're going to say, what's the difference in payments? Let's make that capital because it's a header. Payments. Okay, and then I'm going to make this a little larger here. I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to use a header without a wrapping text. So I'm going to say this is going to be months and then 300 below it. So instead of wrapping the text, I'm just going to put my header in 2 columns and then format it so it looks excellent. There'll still be excellence without wrapping the text, so I don't mess up my table over here. So in other words, instead of wrapping the text here, we're just going to take those 2 columns, make it black and white, and then I'll center these ones. Let's center these. There we go. Looks excellent, just like I told you it would. You didn't believe me, but totally looks excellent. So the payments for larger loan versus payments for the smaller loan is going to be our comparison. Smaller loan. And we're going to compare for the 300 months, which they both have payments, and then that one loan went on for another 60 months. So for the larger loan, we're going to say, all right, the payment on the larger loan, which is this one on the left, was $1,176.44. And that went all the way through to 360 payments. So that's the longer one. And then the shorter one, the payment on the shorter one is $1,049.67. That's for the lower loan, and there's 0 for those last 60 payments. That's the difference in the cash flow. Let's go ahead and add some decimals there. We're going to select these and add some decimals like so. And then the difference in payments is equal to the subtraction of those 2 numbers. The difference. Difference means subtraction in the word problems. I learned that a long time ago. Font group, underline. Let's make this blue and bordered. Blue and bordered. Okay, so now this one, you could possibly use the rate function to kind of calculate the rate, which would be similar to the IRR, the rate at which the series of payments would be 0 for the incremental differences that were taking place here between the 2 options. However, it's a little bit more complex, and this one I think it's a lot more intuitive and possibly easier to use than IRR calculation. So we're going to do an IRR calculation to find the difference between these two. So I'm going to say IRR and then the cash flow. IRR and the cash flow. Header on this one, font group. We're going to say black and white. Let's go ahead and center this thing, or wrap it and then center it. And then we're going to take this on down from 0, 1, 2. We'll bring it all the way down to 360. 360. Bring it on down. That's going to be 30 times 12. That's how you calculate 360 or one way. I'm sure there's other ways you can do it, but that's what's relevant to us. Alignment and center. So there we have it. Now we're going to take the difference again. The difference in the loans are that 17,000, and then we've got the payments that would be taking place. The difference between the payments. So it would be the difference of, I'm going to say the payments are negative. So in order to get that added 17,000, we have a difference in payments that would be going out. So the inflow for the added loan minus the outflow, the added difference in the payments, I'm going to say F4 on the keyboard, which would be 127 about 126.77 for 300 periods, and then that last 60 periods, you'd have a difference in payments of the 1,176. And that would be, so that's going to be what we're going to do. I'm going to copy this on down. Let's just double click it on down, and that'll take it. But then I'm going to go all the way down to the last, after the 300 payment down here, and change the last bit. The last bit needs to be changed. Where does the last bit start? This is the starting of the last bit. This is a bit. It's not a standard unit of measure, a bit. But that last bit right there, that's what we need. So we're going to say that's going to be then negative of these payments, the 117644. Let's make that F4 keyboard, $ before the W and 7. And that last bit, it has the higher payments. So there we have it for that last bit. Okay, so now let's total this thing up. So now we've got our total down here. Total, let's sum it up. Our differences equals the SUM. Sum it up, little darling. And so there we have it with the Bob Marley Sum It Up song. I don't know if that's copyrighted, if I violated any kind of copywriting. IRR, let's take the IRR, the rate at which this series of payments is 0 equals the IRR of this series of payments. There we go, and enter. Now let's make that a percent, number group percent, adding some decimals. That would be for a monthly rate, double clicking it, going to the end of it, times 12, that then yearly amount. So the incremental borrowing costs then of that added 15,000 given these circumstances would be that 10.71%. So again, that could be another tool that you can use to be comparing between these two items. Obviously, you'd be doing comparisons and saying, okay, how much more do I need the 17,000 in order to get things done? Would it be, and if I don't absolutely need it, then what are the benefits? Well, I have this difference in the payments that are happening, which of course could have an impact on whether or not I can make the payments. And then you might say, well, what is the incremental cost of me adding the loan of 17,000 versus not doing so? If I could compare that to, say, other things I could be doing with the money, possibly getting a loan elsewhere, possibly investing that money in some other fashion to see if I can get a return on it. So those would be kind of the scenarios there. So let's go ahead and then we'll do our blue and border on this. Blue and border. That's what I'm trying to spit it out. Spit it out. Spit it out. The word. I can't spit it out. I got too much spit. That's what the problem is. I got it. Okay. Font group. We're going to then borders and then put bluifying on it. Let's put an underline on down below for fonts, for formatting's sake. We'll put an underline down here. And then we'll go font group underline. And then we'll do some conformity of these columns. Column T holding down control. Column X, non-adjacent columns, making them the same width, amazingly, like exactly. That looks pretty good. Let's stop it there.